Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Welcome. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to be seen by you. Let's see. I see Zelda has reclaimed her perch atop the list of wonderful viewers here. Welcome, Zelda, Valerie G, the Trump Reaper. Claudia's here. I'm here. Meredith Powell. Let's see. CJ. What is this tune I'm humming? I don't know. Watcher Soko is here. Marie Bisello, CJ, the ABX girl, Carol Glynn. Okay, Cindy C, Punxsutawney Mo, and Jenny Rayner, Rose Cologne, Bernadette H. Okay, Lulu Girl. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. Glad to have you back here. I was not here last week, and we will discuss that in a few minutes, in a few moments. But first, let's do a quick recap of our stories of the day.
Stories of the day.
Now, there's a ton of things that have happened, not just in the past week, just even in the past few days, that unfortunately I won't be able to even get to. Like, there's a pro golfer, he's like the number one or number two golfer, who was arrested for assault on a police officer, and the police officer actually died today. And he's top. He's what Tiger Woods was in terms of, ability, in terms of how the golf world sees him. And yeah, so that's not on my list of things to cover. It just isn't. I mean, I do have opinions about that. I've got opinions about everything. I hear that he's a nice guy, but it doesn't preclude him from having to, face the law, face justice, whatever that may be. That police officer had a family, he had loved ones. I'm sure they don't give a shit if he's a nice guy and he didn't mean it. How I feel, they gave him I'm sorry. What little I know about it is that they gave him instructions to not go through. He decided to go through. He was going to kind of cut through. The cop grabbed onto his car and he continued to go. To me, that sounds like homeboy was drunk and he didn't want to be stopped for a breathalyzer, and he thought he could just pull an old okey doke, because I'm from the reality where when a police officer gives you a command, you obey. That's just me. I don't have that luxury of I don't feel like doing what you say. That's me. But yeah, I mean, he could very well be a very nice guy. That's irrelevant. He's got to go through the court system and see, or the justice system, and see what they say. He seems rich and connected, so he'll probably get off with nothing more than a slap on the wrist. It's my prediction. I hate to be that jaded about it, but we are watching legal shit in real time. Okay, here's one thing that I don't think. Actually, wait a minute. He is walking away from this, apparently. This was a horrible video that surfaced, that came to light today. This thing happened back in 2016, apparently, where Diddy assaulted his ex-girlfriend in a hotel. And I'm not playing the video. It's disgusting. It's disturbing. Diddy is still out there. walking free. This is what I'm talking about. Justice for just certain people who are not rich and connected. Um, ah, this happened. Can you say bleach, blonde, bad built, butch body 5 times fast? Can you say it? You don't have to say it 5 times fast because Jasmine Crockett said it one time, nice and slow, so it could be understood by the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who woke up that day thinking that it was a good idea to try and come for Miss Jasmine Crockett. It was a bad idea, and AOC had her back. We will discuss. And I do have video. Justice Alito decided that he was going to put up an upside down flag outside his home and then blame it on his wife. It's a damn shame. Is there no is there no loyalty anymore? Is chivalry dead? We just throwing our spouses under the bus when we screw up? Disgusting. Hey, Zelda, my friend, thank you. Thank you so kindly for that kind donation. We will make sure we get to Samuel Alito and give him the business. Thank you, Zelda. Thank you, my friend. And please, if this is your first time watching the show, if you just happen to stumble upon this, make sure right now, before you do anything else, hit that subscribe button. And while you're there, also do this. That's the like button. Looks like a thumbs up. You can actually, in real life, you can go like this to your screen. No one will see it, but if it makes you feel good, go ahead and thumbs up your screen. And let's see. Oh, I see we got some. I'm not even mad at this. There's a troll here saying Majid Padelin is still picking cotton for the Democratic slave plantation. That's such a bullshit thing to say, dude. That is really bullshit. You know. Um, in any case, ain't nobody got time for that. So please, somebody go ahead and handle my light work for me, please. Eject that some of a bee. You need to leave. Cindy Z says, no mention of your appearance finally on Hal's show. Yes, Cindy. Yes, I shall get to it. I promise you. But first, let's discuss another show that is no more. Yes, alas, the Defiant podcast has aired its final pod, has cast its final pod as of last week. These things happen. I was a little bit bummed out when I learned we just didn't hit our projected targets. These guys, the guys that engaged me, that contacted me to see if I was interested in doing this podcast, they said that the show did very well. You know, the final numbers, I think I was averaging somewhere around 90,000 downloads per week, which ain't too shabby for a brand new show with limited promotion. And I say limited promotion because no matter how much fire my tweets are on Twitter, and my tweets, they be fire. Whenever I tweet something that is self-promoting, that takes you outside Twitter to a different site, they automatically get squashed. They get squashed. That's just what it is. So anyway, decent, respectable numbers. But with that said, the numbers weren't big enough for them to continue putting money, investing in the show, because they wanted to be able to hire more people and grow the show exponentially, et cetera, et cetera. It's fine. I was bummed out, but I try to, when these things happen, I try to look at it first. I take a minute and I'm like, oh, that sucks. It sucks. And I reached out to some of you guys, and those of you who were there for me and supportive, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys know who you are. You know who you are. So yeah. So then I took a moment and reassessed, reevaluated. And I was like, shit, I got lots of things to do anyway. God damn it. We're not even just talking about the sequel to The Littlest President, which I'm still like, I'm struggling to get done because there's so much other stuff that I have to get done. Oh, before I forget, and yes, we say, Jenny says 90K seems high. I agree with you. It does seem high. Bernadette says you needed more time to build an audience. BDD, absolutely. And this is somebody. What do I know about podcasting? I know about doing this thing, whatever this thing is. Fun fact: I've been doing this for like 3 years. It's not even a podcast. There's not one episode of Storytime with BDD on any Apple thing because what do I know? I still don't know anything about creating an audio file and then posting it on the podcasting. It's probably the easiest thing in the world to do. I think I happen to be good at interviewing people, but I don't have the time to chase after people, to schedule. I watched them as they were, trying to wrangle interviews. It's difficult. It's very time consuming. So, aside from the work stuff, we now have chickadees. We have chicks. We have baby sparrows, plural. Some of you may recall on Sunday, Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't lead off with that, but happy belated Mother's Day to you. This Mother's Day, we had a chick fell out of the tree into our yard. And wifey, she's the best. Wifey is the best. What would I do without her? I don't know, but I don't even want to think about it. She found the first chick first. And I posted about it. We were like Googling things online and trying to figure out what's the best thing to feed it. It's not even easy. It's very difficult to feed these things, we managed to figure out cat food. Wet cat food was the best. And using what's that called? A chopstick, like Chinese food chopstick to feed this little birdie. The next day, he was joined by three more siblings, 3 siblings. And here, let me just, I'm going to show you these siblings now. That's just one. These are the siblings. Here's the first one. This is the first one from Sunday. Can you put it down? So the challenge with feeding these little guys is that you have to kind of make sure you get the food down their gullet. Like you got to kind of push it down because they're not able to masticate very well. They can't chew very well. They don't have the strength to do that. So you have to try to get it down as far as possible. So the little morsels that you give them, they can't even be that big. They have to be small enough so that their body can process. Now, with that said, we lost 2 of them. It's very sad. Very sad. Wifey was very sad. I was very sad, but wifey took it the hardest because she's been the one really who's been, doing the feeding and the caring for them and cleaning up their poop. They poop a lot, like little white blobs of gunk. They poop a lot. So now we're down to 2, and yeah, so there's that to do. Tuesday, I was on Stephanie Miller's show. She is always awesome to be with. She's a lot of fun. She's very smart, very funny. Great, had a great time on her show. And then earlier today, as Cindy was alluding to, I was finally on House Barks' show. Excuse me. And speaking of funny and smart, this guy, holy shit, where has he been? I mean, I guess he's been doing that show for a while, but that dude is hilarious. He had me rolling and so knowledgeable about many things, many things. So he's got a fantastic show. I highly recommend not just watching the episode that I was on today. Today's episode, I did retweet it, so it's on my Twitter feed. But check out his stuff. I think he's very worthwhile listening to on a regular basis. Hal Sparks, check him out. And then this was also today. I was on with my buddy Chip Franklin on the show. It's a really American show. It's called What the Franklin. What the Franklin. And usually he's joined by Nikki Madero, but she had some school stuff to attend to with her daughter. On the screen there, right below me, is a new hot shot. It's a new hot shot on the Really American team. His name is Kenny, and boy, if you have not yet seen his videos, speak of funny, that dude is funny as hell. I guarantee you cannot get through one of his videos without laughing out loud. So definitely check out Kenny's stuff on the Really American YouTube channel. Check out What the Franklin. Oh, and there's a new show. Actually, hang on. God, all I got is shows, guys. I got shows. There's a new show that is also a really American show, which passed Ben Shapiro on like the podcast, great podcast list or whatever. And it's called Shrinking Trump. And it's two psychiatrists or psychologists, actually, hence shrink, who diagnosed Trump. And it's fascinating as hell because these guys, they are charismatic, but also very knowledgeable. And they have been studying Trump for a while. And let me give you a snippet right here.
But so it's not that. I would like to believe it's our charm and our beauty and our wit. But
let me fast forward a bit.
And what I said at the beginning of our last show and at the end is I made a prediction and I put myself on the line. There could be egg on my face, but I said he won't be able to go a week without behaving in a demented, overtly demented way. Why? Because he can't stop being demented. And so he can't stop displaying those behaviors. And he's getting worse because it's a progressive illness. So part of what I am saying, and in science, we call this a hypothesis. Okay. I'm making a prediction, a testable prediction, and you all can be part of the data collection. I am telling you he's going to get worse and worse, and we will never have a week where we don't have something to talk about in terms of his disturbed behavior.
An extremely engaging show. If you have not yet seen Shrinking Trump, it is available. We drop an episode every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you subscribe to that one. It's fantastic. It's very, enlightening. So definitely check that out if you get a chance to. Let's see, what else do we have here? But oh, let me just spend a minute talking about my New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are, excuse me, in the second round of playoffs against the Indiana Pacers. Not to be slept on, not to be underestimated. The Indiana Pacers really blew us out in Game 4. We lost by a lot. But then my Knicks, they came back. They rose to the challenge, despite the fact that we are missing like three of our main cogs, three of our main pieces of the puzzle. Okay. And of course, that's talking about Julius Randle, talking about OG Anunoby, we're talking about Mitch Robinson, major players. They're out. So what happens? The next man up steps up, and the gentleman on the screen here is Isaiah Hartenstein, who, holy shit, this man, he can board. He can ball. He's been crashing the boards. The other night, he had 17 rebounds, 12 of them on the offensive glass. So that is fantastic. And yes, Fox Hill Dreams, the Rangers are doing extremely well as well. Sadly, I'm not a hockey fan. I am a New York fan. Not a hockey fan. So I couldn't really speak much of that. And Claudia says the winner of that series will be playing my Boston Celtics. I will say this: if my Knicks are fortunate enough to advance to play the Boston Celtics, I'm nervous about that, clearly, because the Boston Celtics, until anybody says differently, they are the team to beat. They are the best. They're the cream of the crop, the best team in the league, hands down. So I'll be happy just to see my Knicks play in the Eastern Conference Finals. Just don't get swept. That's all. That's all I ask. Win one game. Win one. That's all I ask. All right. Such low expectations for my team. The Book of Clarence is a movie that Wifey and I watched last week, and my God, this was a winner. The Book of Clarence is on Netflix. I can't recommend this show any higher. It was funny. It was clever. It's starring this guy, Lakeith Stansfield. You may recognize him from movies like Sorry to Interrupt You. He was in, I think he was in Judas, the Black Messiah. I think he was also in Get Out. That's the main movie I know him from. He's been in a bunch of movies, and he often plays like a broken character, very human character. In this one, he plays Clarence, or as they pronounce his name, Clance. Nobody gets the second syllable right of his name, but he plays Clarence, who is the brother of one of the 12 disciples, one of Jesus's 12 disciples. And Clarence is a ne'er-do-well. He ain't got no money, got no hops. But he's always got a scheme. He's always got some kind of money-making scheme. And so he watches Jesus, right? Because he's alive during Jesus's time. And he sees what Jesus is doing. And he tells his buddy, he's like, you know what? We have to do that. They want to be like Jesus. They want to be like a Messiah so that they can make money. So he starts off really, really bad. This is not a guy to root for. He's a wannabe con artist to take advantage of people. So he's starting off with very low expectations. You expect nothing of him. You think, what a horrible person. But obviously he goes on a character arc, which is very engaging, very fun. And there are some interesting, there are some names in this. James McAvoy is in this, and Benedict Cumberbatch, also known as many different things. I think he was Doctor Who. He's been Doctor Strange. He's been Sherlock Holmes. He's been things. So check this show out. It's on Netflix. I loved it very much. Check it out when you get a chance. My favorite new comedy of the year is something called Extraordinary. It's on Hulu, and the subtitle is What If Everyone Had a Superpower Except You? There are a lot of superhero things out there, not like this. This is very clever. It's very fun. Um, the comedy is top notch. The performances are top notch. The soundtrack, hello, the soundtrack, man, it's great. It's a great soundtrack, and it's basically the girl who's going like this. Uh, this is a world where everybody has superpowers. You usually find out by your 18th birthday. She is 25 and still hasn't found out what her superpower is. And you would think, oh, another superhero thing, but it's very human. It's more than just about superpowers. It's about human nature. It's about family relations. There's a whole lot of shit in this thing. It's extremely funny, um, very well acted, very clever. Check that out. That's on Hulu. Hulu. And last but not least, movie Wifey and I are going to be watching tonight is American Fiction, starring Jeffrey Wright, as you see him on the screen there. And I've been waiting for this movie to drop for a while so I can see it without having to pay for it. And he plays a writer, an author, who is somewhat frustrated because, you know, his novels are not getting any traction. And one day he goes to a book reading where the author, she's on the far right, and what's her name? Her name is Issa something. I can't remember her last name. So she reads a little bit from her book, and when she speaks, she's very articulate. But when she reads from her book, she reads in Ebonics, right? So she reads with that kind of an accent. Excuse me. Oh man, and that's our kitten, who is pathetic, and she's walking around with a fuzzy rainbow worm, and she will do that until somebody grabs her. Anyway, so when she starts reading like that, a light bulb goes off in Jeffrey Wright's head, and he's like, well, clearly that is what the market is looking for. They're looking for, lowest common denominator. They don't want, characters who speak, articulately. They want someone who speaks like they're from the hood. And so he writes a book kind of tongue in cheek, almost like to prove a point. He doesn't expect anything to happen, success wise for this book. And instead, what happens is that it's a hit. It's a huge hit. Like, he does this as a joke and it becomes very successful. So I'm looking forward to reading it. Issa Rae. Thank you, Luppy Girl. And you may recognize Tracy Ellis Ross there on the far right. And in the middle, pretty sure that's Leslie Uggams, who for some reason I'm seeing her in many things now. So that's interesting. I remember Leslie Uggams from the 70s and 80s. Pretty sure she was in Roots. Moving right along, President Jimmy Carter is still with us, despite the fact that he entered hospice care over a year ago. Pretty sure it was over a year ago. Wasn't it? Like, yeah, because his wife passed. And I remember thinking, oh, damn, you know how it goes. A couple is together. He was with his wife forever. And when, I can't even imagine, it's like ripping out half your heart when she goes. And I thought, oh man, then, yeah, Trump Reaper, he is 99 years old. President Jimmy Carter is 99 years old. And I thought there's no way he continues much longer after Rosalind is gone. But here he is, still well into his 99th birthday. I think October he would be 100. So he's still with us, but his grandson has made an announcement earlier this week and said that he is entering his final stage in life. So the man is he's incredible, and he is going to be sorely missed. So just keep an eye out for him. I don't know. He might outlive a lot more people before it's all said and done. And Jenny makes something interesting here. The first president she was aware of as a child. I think I'm with you there. I don't remember much of Gerald Ford, despite the fact that Chevy Chase on Saturday Night Live made a career out of mock falling to mock Gerald Ford. But yeah, I think Jimmy Carter was the first president I was aware of, and I remember them mocking the size of his teeth and the fact that he was a peanut farmer, but he always seemed like a very good man. So, and yes, a life well lived, as Valerie G says here. And the quote on the screen here says, "I love that he built homes for Habitat for Humanity until he literally couldn't lift a hammer." That's a beautiful segment. I couldn't have said it any better. Another great president is our current president, and President Biden earlier this week, celebrated the Dow Jones crossing the 40,000 barrier. 40,000. It's the first time in history, first time ever. And it's funny. Aaron Rupar posts a lot of very interesting content. Like he looks back at 4 years before, which is a very interesting thing. Aaron Rupar posted the fact that during Trump's time in office, he tweeted at least four different times the celebration of the Dow Jones crossing the 25,000 mark, right? So twice was in 2018, twice was in 2019, where it crossed that 25,000 point mark. So I took that to say, hey, if he celebrated that crossing four times, we shouldn't be shy about celebrating its crossing one time. I know that the Dow Jones the stock market is not the economy. I know that. But I also know that the stock market doesn't just affect the success of the stock market, doesn't just affect big wigs and high-powered stockbrokers and people with millions and billions of dollars. It affects regular people too. Regular people who have 401ks, who have, people who dibble and dabble in stocks, it affects those people too. So it matters. It matters. Here's something else that matters. The primaries continue. Now, both candidates, Democratic and Republican, President Biden and Donald Trump, are pretty much the presumptive nominees of their respective parties. Both, right? The primaries, however, continue. People are continuing to cast their vote for who they want, and they're sending a message, sending a signal. President Biden is steadily claiming around the 90% mark, with Dean Phillips and occasionally some other candidates sopping up that extra 10%. But Donald Trump is losing 20% on average, 20% of the vote. These votes here I'm showing here, these primaries are from Nebraska. He lost 20% to Nikki Haley, who dropped out months ago. 3 months now, she dropped out. That sounds like trouble to me. Why is that trouble? Because, he still did get 77% of the vote. That's nothing to sneeze at. I know. But what does that equate to in actual votes? Well, here in Nebraska, that 20% equated to 23,000 votes. 23,000. What happens if the election is close in Nebraska or any of those other places where he's losing 20%, where he told Haley supporters, I don't need your vote? What happens there? This last election was won was essentially won by less than 100,000 votes. Yeah. Even though we won, President Biden won, excuse me, by 7 million popular votes. Those 100,000 were the ones that tipped the scales in our favor for the electoral votes. If that makes any sense to you. I hate the electoral college. It's so fucking stupid and confusing and unnecessary. So yeah, in a close election, as Marie from New Jersey says, 23,000 is a lot. It is. It is, my friend. So, so Donald Trump was in Wildwood, New Jersey this last weekend. And he looked like he had a decent sized turnout. You know, he's always worried about crowd size. That's how he's been. You know, he worried about crowd size back in 2016 and 2017, his inauguration. He was trying to compare his crowd size to Obama's. Don't do that to yourself, man. Don't do that. You can't compare yourself to Obama. You will fall short in every category, my friend. Every category. And this year is no different. This year is no different. So it looked like he had a decent sized turnout in Wildwood. It wasn't. It wasn't Claudia. It wasn't 100,000, as Claudia is joking here. Marie, I think, is closer. She says 11,750. Is that the official tally? Because I didn't see the official tally, but you know, he had people saying that it was 80,000, 80 to 100. Sorry about that, guys. I hope you can hear me. I accidentally unplugged my mic. Uh, Hey, Jeffrey Schonert. Thank you, my friend. That is a very kind comment to make. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate that. Um, yeah, so he was trying to push, trying to say that 80 to 100,000 people showed up. Eh, I mean, oh, here's a fun fact. So Wildwoods, wifey and I went there when we were celebrating many years ago. Not many, but whatever. We went back there on our honeymoon, right? And it was kind of a delayed honeymoon. We went later after we had gotten married, but we went there. We were passing through Wildwoods on our way back north, and there were these flies there that were biting the hell out of us. We tried to stay longer than we did. It was annoying as hell. These flies wouldn't stop biting us. But Roger Stone posted a tweet saying, yeah, New Jersey is in play for a real Donald Trump. Could Joe Biden draw a crowd like this? Wow. Look at that crowd. That's a massive crowd. Look at all the people. Look at all the people there, right on the beach, by the water, and the mountains. And the mountains. What's wrong with that picture? What's wrong with that picture is that it's not Wildwood. It's not New Jersey. In fact, it's not even 2024. Oh my God. What I love about their chicanery, what I love about their tomfoolery, their shenanigans, their gaslighting, their bullshit, is that it is so easy to debunk every fucking time. Every time they act like nobody else has access to the internet to double check these things. Huh? Every time. Look at this video from this picture from this. That's not Wildwood. That's Rio de Janeiro. That was a Rod Stewart concert. Wake up, Spanky. I think you were trying to bullshit us. Yeah, that was a concert in Rio de Janeiro Brazil in 1994. So ridiculous. So anyway, people were um, spoofing Roger Stone's tweet. Could Joe Biden, New Jersey is in play. Could Joe Biden draw a crowd like this? And so, people were like, oh, Massachusetts is in play. Could Joe Biden draw a crowd like this? Oh, Mecca's in play. Could Joe Biden draw a crowd like this? Beijing is in play. Could Joe Biden draw a crowd like this? And on and on and on. It's very, very funny. I love the internet because people are fast and funny. Funny and fast. So Meredith Powell says New Jersey is not in play. I believe you. I believe you, Meredith. Please make sure hold it down there. Hold it down. So anyway, this week, President Biden extended an offer to Donald Trump to participate in a debate, in two debates, actually. And when I first heard about that, I was like, what? Why would you do it? Why? I didn't like it. I don't think President Biden has anything to prove. He already dusted Spanky's ass. Dusted him. In one of those debates, that motherfucker had COVID and was trying to kill President Biden by showing up and didn't tell anybody that he had COVID. Disgusting. But aside from that, Donald Trump, in my opinion, has already disqualified himself with his January 6th behavior. He tried to overturn the will of the voters. He tried to, he tried to subvert our democracy. So, no, you don't even deserve the privilege of running for president, let alone being on the same stage as our current existing president. You don't deserve that right, that honor. That's an honor to be on the stage, the debate stage with President Biden. You haven't earned that shit, son of a bitch. But, President Biden, he's thinking of something. He's got something up his sleeve. Maybe it gives him a chance to sideline RFK Jr., some people think. By doing this, he's foregoing the Presidential Debate Commission. The Presidential Debate Commission would insist that you allow a third-party candidate into the debates, and maybe they don't want it. I don't disagree with that. But let me show you President Biden's gauntlet throwing.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
So that I hear you're free on Wednesdays joke was clearly a slam at the fact that he doesn't have to be in court on Wednesdays. So that was great. Put this back up here. So I saw. So this year's debate might look a little differently if there is a conviction before the first debate. The first debate is going to happen June 27th. June 27th. So that's like the end of June, which is way earlier than normal. Neither party by June 27th will have had its nominating convention. The Republican nominating convention? The RNC and the DNC, for crying out loud. Those two conventions will not have happened yet at that point. Sorry. Thank you, Simon. That's cool. My well-kept badger appreciates your comment there. So if there is a conviction in the election interference trial, which is close to ending now, it is possible. Not Donald Trump is not going to do any jail time. Even if he's convicted, there's going to be an appeal. I mean, look, a long way out from now, maybe he gets put on house arrest or something. But he's going to work the system. He has access to as much money as he needs for appeals. He can keep this thing in court for a year or more, as well as the other court cases which have already been pushed out, so they won't even kick off prior to the election. Excuse me. So that debate, those two debates that are going to happen June 27th and September 10th, he might not even show up. There's a lot of people who don't think Donald Trump wants to debate. He avoided all of the debates with the Republicans. And why would he? I mean, why avoid those? You're in the same room with sycophants, with people who are there to polish your shoes. And by polish your shoes, I'm clearly talking about something else. They're there to polish your shoes. Why would you fear them? The only person he really had to fear was Chris Christie. But even Chris Christie could barely land much of a punch against Donald Trump. But yeah, as Wilbur McCarthy points out here, Trump has dementia. And, I think on some level, he knows. I think the people closest to him know. And he's still moving forward with his plans anyway. So we'll see what happens. But the reason I was so adamantly against President Biden being in a debate with Donald Trump wasn't just because I didn't feel he deserved it, right? It's also because I didn't like what I saw the last two times he debated Donald Trump. I didn't appreciate the constant interruptions, the yelling over his voice so nobody can hear what anybody is saying. I hate that. And Donald Trump isn't the only one that does that. Republicans that's like their go-to move. And it's annoying. You know what? Like, don't hide behind chaos and noise. Let us hear your thoughts. Let us hear your stances, your positions on issues, your positions on policy. Let's hear that. Don't camouflage it with all that bullshit, pretending like you have something to argue about and you're just rah, rah, rah. You're just waiting for them to say something so you can speak on top of their voice. That's stupid. That's childish. So I didn't like that. But with that said, if it has to be, what I would like to see is I would like to see some real questions be asked by the facilitators, the moderators. And so I wrote up
Ms. Greene for 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
I wrote up a checklist of things that I would like to see asked, and I can't find it. Where's my checklist? Here we go. Some questions I would like to see asked are, why did you wait 187 minutes to do anything on January 6th as police officers were being attacked in your name? Why do you believe a president who orders SEAL Team 6 to assassinate his opponent deserves absolute immunity? They should ask these questions. Of all the crimes you've been indicted for, which one was your favorite? All right, that's silly. You still haven't accepted the results of the 2020 election, and you refuse to say you'll accept the results of the 2024 election. The question is, what the actual fuck is wrong with you? Maybe you want to reword that one. You once said of Hillary Clinton, she shouldn't be allowed to run. And, quote, we could very well have a sitting president under felony indictment and ultimately a criminal trial. It would grind government to a halt and create an unprecedented constitutional crisis. Has your opinion of this changed, and why? Real questions to ask him in a debate and make him answer them. Twist his arm behind his back. You infamously once said, as a star, you could grab women by their private parts. Since then, you've been found liable for the sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll, and you're on trial for trying to hide hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Why are you such a piece of shit? Or something similar to that. You said there's got to be some form of punishment for women who get abortions years before you would celebrate and proudly take credit for ending Roe v. Wade. The question is, where is the first place you're going to visit when you lose the election? And will you choose the top bunk or the bottom bunk when you go to prison? Those would be some excellent questions to ask him if he actually ends up showing up to a debate. We shall see. We shall see. The news came out during the trial this week from Michael Cohen that his main media contacts to get positive stories run about Donald Trump were Maggie Haberman of the New York Times, Katie Tur of MSNBC, and Chris Cuomo of Nowhere. I think is he with Newsday? I'm not sure who Chris Cuomo works for right now. I know he's an idiot. He's increasingly more and more idiotic as the days go by. But I'm not sure he's actually working officially anywhere. But the news about Maggie Haberman and Katie Tur, not a shock to anybody who's been paying attention. News Nation, thank you, Claudia. Katie Tur was just called out by Nancy Pelosi spectacularly in a very public way. She basically called her a Trump apologist. And Maggie Haberman, everybody knew the entire time that she was fully in the Trump camp. And it's frankly, it's disgusting because, we are facing a very dire situation here. And these folks, whether we like it or not, they have access to eyeballs behind the screens, that millions of eyeballs. They are shaping opinions, whether we care to admit it or not, because they appear as reasonable, sensible, logical people on the TV screen, or as my dad used to call it, the idiot box. Many people have called it the idiot box. And sometimes people just kind of shut their own brains off and they let the idiot box decide for them what they should believe in, what they should embrace. So Katie Tur has been low-key kind of cheering on Donald Trump. She was so enthralled when Michael Cohen got called to the carpet the other day in the trial, when it appeared that the defense attorney, Trump's defense attorney, had found an inconsistency in his testimony about something that happened on October 24th. And there was a 14-year-old involved that was prank calling him. And then he got a text. He was texting Trump's bodyguard, and it seemed to coincide with the same date that he attributed to the date that he had a conversation with Trump about the hush money. I don't think it's a big deal, but she was making a big deal out of it, as were a bunch of other assholes. Anderson Cooper, motherfucker. So yeah. Let's get onto the juicy stuff right now. So, this was a very interesting thing that happened. Interesting. When I say interesting, I mean some shit went down. So last night, the House was in session last night because these idiot Trump supporting congressional goons, or as I would like to put it, the pathetic parade of pusillanimous pandering politicians, they decided that they were going to go support Donald Trump at his court appearance in New York. So they ended up having to come back to the House and do their business late. So, Bernadette says, my appearance will be replayed on Stephanie's podcast tonight. I thank you for that. I thank you for this. So Marjorie Taylor Greene thought it was a good idea to come out of her face and say something derogatory about Jasmine Crockett's eyelashes, saying that maybe she had trouble reading such and such because of her false eyelashes. Like, I'm sorry. Come on. You guys are doing the people's business. Where does this personal attack come in? That's not even, first of all, it's not necessary. Second of all, it's actually nasty. That's not how they get down in the House. I've watched enough of these things on CNN to know they refer to each other as, well, the gentle person from Georgia and the gentle person from Alabama, et cetera, et cetera. That's how they refer to each other, not this bitch in the false eyelashes. They don't do that, right? So AOC took offense to that. AOC stepped up on behalf of her colleague and said that Marjorie Taylor Greene should have to apologize. And for one reason or another, that got voted down. That was voted down. So then this happened. Hold on. I should have been doing this that whole time. Here we go. Here we go. Then this
4 minutes and 21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's
It's me.
Miss Crockett?
I'm just curious, just to better
hang on. Make sure you watch Jamie Raskin's reaction and Dan Goldman too.
understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold on.
I'm trying to find clarification on what
Chairman, motion to strike those words.
What you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just
you just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to
voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at calm down.
No, because this is what
y'all
y'all do.
Proceeding.
So I'm trying to get
Miss
clarification.
Crockett, you're not recognized. Miss
I
Crockett.
can't hear you with your yelling.
So what proceeded to happen was this woman, I don't know who that was talking, but there was this woman saying, calm down and you're out of control. I did not like that one bit. I know damn well you never tell a woman to calm down. You just don't. That's almost as bad as the C word. It's not quite the C word, but it's close. It's close to it. Oh, is that Luna? Okay, Luna, the lunatic. I love the reactions from Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman. For Jamie Raskin's face, he was first like, he did the double take. It was great. But the hypocrisy here was they voted to allow that kind of freaking discourse there. When Marjorie Taylor Greene's trailer park ass did it, it was okay with them. But when Jasmine Crockett wanted to pose a hypothetical question and wanted to ask, well, what about if somebody says bleach blonde, bad built, butch body, is that considered a personal attack? It's a good question. She just wanted some clarification. She just asked some questions. But if you don't want that smoke, don't light it up. And she tried to light it up, and she got lit up in the process. And Queen Crockett, Queen Crockett smoked it. Indeed, she did. She's fantastic. She is a rising star, without a doubt. I love her performances in the House. And you know what? I was watching CNN earlier today, and this woman, I don't know who she was, but she was asking Congressman Garcia. I think his name is Robert Garcia. She was asking him, "Well, is that appropriate?" And he's like, "Hey, Marjorie Taylor Greene was the one who disrespected our colleague, and AOC stepped up, and she's like, yeah, but now you sound like you're children in the schoolyard." She was trying to both sides it, and I'm sorry. We are long past the both sides bullshit. We're long past that. If these motherfuckers are going to act like that and nobody's going to hold them accountable, I approve our members of Congress stepping up and handing them their asses on the spot and let them be exposed for the hypocritical pieces of shit that they are. That's it. Marjorie Taylor Greene has no business being in any committee. She should have been removed from all of them by Mike Johnson. But MAGA Mike Johnson is too busy showing up in court for Donald Trump. We'll get to that later. But first, there's some other ugliness we have to discuss. And the ugliness is from Diddy. Frankly, I am stunned. By this. I'm stunned because, frankly, I never followed Diddy. I have friends who love following like the hip hop world and what kind of beef so and so is in with so and so. Like, I wasn't even up on the whole Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef until it was trending, and I couldn't avoid it. I don't pay attention to that shit. So I don't even pay attention to the lifestyles of the rich and famous and the Diddy. He's got billions of dollars or whatever. So why do we even care about him? But I care because he has assaulted this woman. I care because his homes were recently raided by authorities, by members of the Department of Justice, in connection with sex trafficking. So I don't know who he pissed off, but he kicked over a beehive. So there's been a lot of activity surrounding him, and all of a sudden he is being hit with the consequences of his actions. Right? He's not being canceled. He's being hit with the consequences of his actions. That shit, it doesn't always come out in the wash, but then it'll come out in the rinse. And that shit catches up to you, and now it's catching up to Diddy. As rich and famous as he is, he pissed off the wrong person, and now they are airing his shit out. Apparently, he had entered into some kind of arrangement with his ex. Her name is Cassie, seen here on the screen on the right. And I'm not showing the video, but I will describe what happened. What happened is that Cassie appears on video going down the hallway with her stuff. She's leaving. Apparently, Diddy was asleep, and she was able to get out of the room, and she made her way to the elevator bank. She pressed the button, and then Diddy, soon after, he realized that she had left his room with just a towel wrapped around him, and caught up to her and started beating on her. He struck her, I believe, twice, and then she fell on the floor, and then he kicked her twice. Then he attempted to, he took her bags, put it on his shoulder, and then tried to drag her through the hallway and I guess back to his room. And then she got away from him. And then he started throwing these glass vases at her. Wow. And this thing was, I believe there was like a $50,000 settlement for this. Sorry. He got away with nothing. $50,000. That's the amount of money he spends on champagne when he goes to the strip club. He spends that kind of money. That's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. And so there she is on the floor there. And it's terrible. It's terrible that we're just finding out about this and he didn't go to jail. How is that? I guess she would have had to press charges. But we need to stop putting these people on pedestals, and when they first started talking about cancel culture, it was part of the Me Too movement. And part of the Me Too movement was all about believing women when they're saying that they were being attacked. They were being brutally attacked by men. And the Me Too movement, I guess, missed her here, or maybe she chose not to avail herself of the protections that would have been afforded her had she spoken up. But this shit is out there now, and I don't know if the fact that he wasn't charged back then means that he can't be charged now. I don't know. I don't know enough about the law. I don't know where exactly this happened. But yeah, as Melissa McQueen says, hi, Melissa McQueen. And she says, $50K ain't nothing. Agreed. Probably doesn't give back to the community he grew up in. It's a good point. I don't know if he does or not. Because again, I don't pay attention to this son of a bitch. Speaking of son of a bitch, Samuel Alito, one of the worst Supreme Court justices, and I say that knowing very well that Clarence Thomas and Justice I Love Beer and Justice Wirehanger Barrett exist. Samuel Alito is in the news because it was learned that a week after January 6th, that an upside down flag was seen hanging outside his home. So the upside down flag, the first time, I'll be honest with you, the first time I'd seen that, I was before January 6th. I'm being perfectly honest with you. I've seen it before then. And it was explained to me that the upside down flag means that something is wrong, right? But the upside down flag, as you can see in the picture in the lower right-hand corner, was adopted by January 6th attackers and by Stop the Steal proponents, people who were promoting that belief that the election was stolen, that lie. They were promoting the big lie. And so here's Samuel Alito now, today, blaming it on his wife, saying that she got into a beef with one of their neighbors, and so he had nothing to do with it. It's his house. He lives there. If he didn't want it up, if he's concernicus about how it looks that a Supreme Court justice has an upside down Stop the Steal flag hanging outside his home, he should say something. He should take it down. Look, I patrol my home frequently, every day, actually. When I see things that are out of place, I put them in place. I'm that guy. When I go through my yard and I see a piece of plastic that maybe a wrapper, a candy wrapper that either blew in off the street or blew in from my next door neighbor, I pick it up and I throw it away because I don't like shit out of place. That's me. He's a Supreme Court justice. And I'm sorry, an upside down flag outside your house, that's noticeable. That's something, it's more noticeable than, a discarded candy wrapper in your yard, right? It's very noticeable. People notice that shit. It was up for several days, Bernadette H. says. Sandra from Paramount, California says, an American flag flown upside down is a distress signal. So the problem with this is that Samuel Alito is one of the Supreme Court justices who is going to be sitting in and ruling on cases involving January 6th people, and ruling on whether or not Donald Trump should have presidential immunity. I think these two cases, he should be. I don't think you leave it up. I don't think we can leave these up to the Supreme Court justices anymore. I don't think they can be trusted. Honor system, I'm going to recuse myself, because there's clearly no more honor, at least with those right-wing Supreme Court justices. And let's call it what it is. This is a very unbalanced court right now, and the right wing of the Supreme Court has shown that it can't be trusted. And I will say this: the same does not go. This is not a both sides thing. Okay, I think it was Justice Kagan who famously refused to accept a gift of bagels and freaking cream cheese because she did not want to broach the appearance of impropriety. Bagels and cream cheese. Meanwhile, Clarence Thomas is taking $1 million private jet flights, $1 million super yacht cruises, and et cetera, letting his was it grandson or whatever get his tuition paid for in full and buying his mother's house. All of this shit. These Supreme Court justices cannot be trusted to recuse and to be ethical. So that decision has to be taken out of their hands, or they have to be impeached, as I believe AOC is attempting to do right now. Here's some more update from Bernadette. Says neighbors were afraid to report the flag, according to MSNBC. I wonder why that is. That's interesting. Did they think that there was going to be some kind of political repercussions from, maybe not from Alito himself, but maybe from his friends? Maybe they know that he's a guy high up in the radical right Supreme Court, and there would be some retribution. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you for that, Bernadette. Yeah, disgusting. Both of them. Absolutely disgraceful. Speaking of disgraceful, these are the pathetic parade of pusillanimous, pandering politicians to whom I was referring earlier in the show. Disgusting, disgraceful display of what was it? Bootlicking. there was a video that came out. I think it was yesterday or earlier this week, where I think it was Matt Gaetz was speaking, and somebody held up a sign that said "bootlickers," and it was perfect because the Red Tie Bootlicker Brigade. There you go. I feel like I've seen that somewhere. That's perfect. Red Tie Bootlicker Brigade. Yeah, so these members of Congress, like Byron Donalds and I forget the little guy's name next to him, but there's also Doug Burgum, who is a former governor of one of the Dakotas, maybe North Dakota, and Vivek Ramaswamy, the most annoying person who ever existed. They all wearing matching suits and ties. It's like It's pathetic. It's pathetic, but it's also kind of hilarious too. Like this is something that they're going to look back on and be ashamed of. Hopefully, they'll be ashamed because that's ridiculous. We're all wearing the same uniform. That's so stupid. And Mike Johnson never fails to amaze me how low he can go. That's not a leader. That's not a leader at all. Clearly showing that he is a follower. He's a follower. So they're all showing up in support of Donald Trump, but they're not just showing up in support of him, but they are taking cues from him. They are acting as his attack dogs. And who are they attacking? Judge Merchan and Judge Merchan's daughter. There was a reporter sitting behind Donald Trump the other day, and he was a reporter from New York Magazine. I can't remember his name, but he could see very well that Donald Trump was writing notes, attack notes, was writing a script for people to attack Judge Merchan. So he is skirting the gag order, preventing him from attacking the judge's daughter. So he's using surrogates to do his dirty work. And I guess you can't prove it because somebody would have to admit there'd have to be some kind of proof, and we're playing this stupid game. Oh no, I'm voluntarily doing this. Meanwhile, they all sound identical. It's absolutely outrageous. And yes, Meredith Powell, this is so pathetic. What a group of weaklings and cowards. Indeed. So what's happening in court right now? What's happening is that Michael Cohen has spent the first 2 days of the week in court being grilled by the prosecutor, by the DA, or the DA's office. And that's direct examination. And they spent those 2 days pretty much laying down the groundwork, letting the jury know this is not the best guy in the world, but he is a guy. He is the guy who was as close to Donald Trump as you could possibly get. He is the guy who was involved in, taking out money from his home, a home equity loan to pay Stormy Daniels, and then getting reimbursed by Donald Trump in a series of checks to try to conceal the fact that he was doing this to hide it from voters. And so the prosecution spent 2 full days, outlining things that he lied about. I lied about this and I lied about that. And why did you do it? And I did it for this reason. And the reasons were always to protect Donald Trump. And then the defense attorney stepped up and did his cross-examination of Michael Cohen, and that's where things started to go sideways a little bit. Now, people were concerned that Michael Cohen has a hot head, and excuse me, that he's hot-headed and he was going to lose his temper, but he didn't. He pretty much, kept things even keel, low key. Some observers didn't like that some of his answers were less than direct and straightforward and definitive. They were not like yes or no. They were like, it could have been and whatever, It's a lot of days and a lot of hours to be, testifying. And he has to be, I don't disagree with how he's answering his questions, because you want to make sure there's so much data out there. You want to make sure you're saying yes when you should be saying yes and no when you should be saying no. And if you're not sure, you should say you're not sure, because you're in court and they're judging everything that you say as being the truth or not the truth. Right? So should he be answering rapid fire when so much is weighing on this? No. He should take his fucking time and answer correctly. They're asking about shit that was back in 2016, text messages that he got and phone calls that he made in 2016. Does anybody here remember phone calls and text messages they sent, received, and spoke about 8 years ago? Anybody? No, you don't. Nobody remembers the time they got, a specific time or date that they got a message and they said a certain thing. Nobody remembers that. It's impossible. Average person is getting, receiving, and sending maybe 50 text messages a day times 365 times 8. That's a shitload of text messages. So I don't know what you guys have been watching, but during the afternoons, I'm watching a lot of CNN because I can't watch Andrea Mitchell and Katie Tur. I can't. I can't watch until I turn MSNBC onto CNN around 11 or 12 o'clock. And then I go back to MSNBC at 4 when Nicole Wallace is on. But what I've been watching are people freaking out about, the answers that Michael Cohen gave, saying that, this is problematic and et cetera, et cetera. And, I feel like this. I feel like the jury has seen actual evidence. They've seen checks, signed checks. They've heard from guys like David Pecker. They've heard from women like Hope Hicks and Stormy Daniels and a whole lot of other people, boring people, accountants who can verify all of the information that has already been shared, the evidence that has been presented. So should this whole case rest on the shoulders of Michael Cohen and the fact that he may or may not have answered incorrectly? I don't think so. So I think the prosecuting attorney, the prosecution, is going to get back up there on Monday and is going to resolve whatever he needs to resolve and a redirect, and that's going to be it. Then and if there's no witnesses, there's no more witnesses for the prosecution, and the defense decides we're not going to put anyone on the stand, then that's it. Then the jury will be in deliberation, and I expect that they will be deliberating for maybe a week or so. A week. There's a lot of information for them to review. All I hope is that it is not a hung jury, because if it's a hung jury, then there's a mistrial, and then we don't get a verdict, and then that turns into, I'm exonerated. They exonerated me. They didn't convict me. That's exoneration. He will do that. He absolutely will do that. So I want a verdict either way. Either way. And anyway, my friends, that is all I have to say today. Excuse me. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Do you have any question for me before I go take a powder and go enjoy some pizza and movie night? Any questions for me? Trump lies whenever he talks, so Michael Cohen cannot be blamed for something from 2016. Excellent point there, Trump Reaper. Oh, look at you using the what's the two dots on top of the U? Is that called an umlaut or something? Foxhill Dreams wants to know, how many times did Trump plead the fifth in other cases? Hundreds of times. Hundreds. Oh, excellent question. Thank you for asking, Melissa McQueen. I have very good news for you guys. So my diabetes, last week I went to the lab and had a blood test taken so they can check not just on my diabetes, but also on my cholesterol. And I feel like there was something else. Can't remember. But anyway, my diabetes was originally 7.4, that's full on diabetes. It's not like It's not horrible, but it's not great. So that was originally what it was over a year ago when I first found out. And then I got put on the meds, and then they just did a check. And I was actually supposed to have taken my bloods over again back in January, but I kept forgetting to take my medication. And so I was like, I don't want to do a blood test, and I've got this bad track record with the meds. So let me get on track. So finally, May took it, and I dropped from a 7.4 to a 6.4, which that's pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes. It's very good. And my cholesterol is fantastical. It's great. It's like perfect. It's never been this perfect before, so I'm happy for that. Other news in the health thing is that I have delayed and put off taking blood pressure meds for at least 10 years, and I can't delay it anymore. It is what it is. I got high blood pressure, and I got to take the medication. So I'm on that now. So yay for me. What movie am I watching tonight? I'm watching the movie I talked about earlier in the show. It's called American Fiction, starring Jeffrey Wright, and I'm very much looking forward to that movie. Hey, Monique Lee, I see you there. Cindy said, how did I know you'd geek out over Hal being the elevator guy in Spider-Man 2? Yeah, that's my jam. Yeah. And yes, Bernadette, it shall be. The new book will be published by this summer. By hook or by crook, that's what's going to happen. And that's it, my friends. So I thank you again for joining me. I look forward to seeing you guys here next week, same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.